Hey, what's up guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the BenQ PD3200U. Now, this is a 32-inch monitor that runs at 4K at 60Hz and is really made for designers in mind. Now, the monitor can be found for a whopping £800 in the UK. It's very much expensive, so do bear that in mind. Links will be down in the description, including a link to the specs. Now, speaking of the specs, you get 32-inch, you've got 3840 times 2160 at 60Hz, a 4 milliseconds quoted response time on a IPS panel, a 16:9 aspect ratio, and in terms of inputs, you've got a display port, two HDMI ports, one of which is HDMI 2.0, a mini display port as well, which can be used, and all of which can be found on the right hand side of the monitor, unlike most, which is found underneath. You've got four USB 3.0 ports, two of which are found on the side, two of which are found underneath, and two are upstream, and two of them are downstream USB ports. That comes from the Kvm Switch. Now, the Kvm Switch allows you to use a mouse and keyboard on one monitor using two separate PCs. So that means the monitor can be used as a hub for your mouse and keyboard in order to communicate with two separate devices. That is really cool functionality, and there's a video showcasing how to use that from BenQ, and again I'll link that down in the description in case you're interested. Other than that, it's got two 5-watt speakers, which were actually surprisingly good given the fact they're monitor speakers, other specs, I can't really think of other ones that I've really missed out, but they will be in the description below in case you're interested, so make sure you click through to BenQ's website for that. Now, in terms of build quality of the monitor, I was very much impressed. Even though it's got touchscreen buttons, which I wasn't a fan of, and you've got this included little dongle over here that allows you to access the OSD. I'm not a big fan of the touchscreen buttons, but nevertheless, I was very much impressed with the build quality. Even though it might seem clunky to some, it's got a solid black/grey look to it, which is brushed, which makes it give a professional look to it. The bezels are relatively thin, even though the monitor is a little bit at a depth to the bezels, making it seem like it's got big bezels. In terms of the monitor stand, you can go up, down, full 180, and you can tilt it. I can't really show you all these functionalities given the size of the monitor and my desk, but you have to believe me on those. And let me just go through the OSD settings for you guys so you guys can see what is included. I'm very much impressed with the on-screen display and I had no sort of complaints whatsoever, but nevertheless I want to go through them. Now, going through the OSD, you've got a picture-in-picture mode and picture-by-picture mode, allowing you to input two different sources and also two different color spaces within one screen. Therefore, you can have sRGB on one side and you can have say Rec 709 on the other side. That's really cool to have. In terms of picture mode, in picture settings, you've got brightness, contrast, sharpness, color, gamma, color temperature, hue, saturation, and AMA. Now, in terms of gaming, I wouldn't use this monitor for gaming at all. I did test it on Counter-Strike and noticed on premium mode you get a lot of overshoot ghosting, but on high mode it had like a little bit of acceptable ghosting. Now, in terms of how it actually performs in terms of a game, I would use it for a non-competitive gaming, but if you're going to be using it for serious gaming, then I think you're going to be left very much disappointed. Nevertheless, this is not a monitor designed for gaming. It's designed for designers. Now, in terms of the picture modes, you've got out-the-box Rec 709 and sRGB modes. When I put it through a calibrator, it did really well in the sRGB mode, scoring near 100% on sRGB. You've got CAD/CAM mode, animation, standard, low blue light mode, darkroom, and also user modes as well, which will allow you to access other settings which might be previously grayed out. Dual view is for two different PCs. Display mode you can change in terms of the aspect ratio and the size of the screen, or the perceived size of the screen. You got audio settings, as I mentioned, the Speaker's actually quite good. KVM switch, as I previously explained as well. In terms of system, you can customize the keys, the quick keys over here. You can also customize what this the 3 keys do on here, because you've got a 1, 2, 3 via the separate option over there. And you've got DisplayPort 1.1 and DisplayPort 1.2 to select from. Ergonomics, in order to remind you to look away from the screen every now and then, in eco mode. So in terms of the OSD, I have no complaints whatsoever, and I love this little button, little switch over here, which is really responsive. But as I said before, not a big fan of the touchscreen buttons, even though BenQ have made it really responsive and very easy to touch. I'm just not a fan of them. Now, just going back and now talking about the panel itself. Now, the panel itself is actually very impressive. It's got an IPS panel, and I must say, in terms of colors, I had no complaints. Looking at a calibration of it, when I went through it, it actually performed very well. Now, you might not be able to see the numbers there, but the delta E was 0.75, which is very good for a monitor, and that was calibrated for sRGB and whilst being used on sRGB mode, so no problems in terms of that. And I found its white point to be very accurate. I found the colors to pop very well. In terms of its color gamut, it did very good. As I said, sRGB mode near 100%, while it's at Adobe RGB and DCI-P3 were near 80 odd percent, which is very much respectable for an IPS panel that is calibrated for sRGB. So great to see that. I should also say this is a 10-bit panel, so you're going to get the full range of colors through a 10-bit card. Unfortunately, I can't really test that via a graphics card I've got, but you've got that capability out there as well. Cycling through a few images on my desktop, you'll be able to see that the colors really do pop, and the colors do come out very well. They're very much vivid, but also accurate, not over bloated. The blacks are black, the whites are on point, and I had no sort of complaints. However, I was not impressed by its brightness uniformity. Looking at calibration of the monitor, and in terms of a test of the monitor, you'll be able to see on the top right hand side and the corners of the monitor really did not fare well with brightness uniformity. Sure, in the middle you've got no sort of problems, but when you're looking at this and the standpoint of a designer and a video editor, you're going to want good color uniformity throughout the screen. And I know that's not always possible with monitors that are relatively cheap, or say under the £1,000 price mark, but for an £800 monitor which is designed for designers or pictures photographers and whatnot, I would have expected a much better color uniformity, and that is not the case. This also did translate in terms of backlight bleed, which also leads me on to another point. Looking at its backlight bleed, I noticed the same sort of problems when it came to the monitor. I noticed backlight bleeds in the same sections where there was lack of color uniformity. But the biggest concern I had was actually a dead pixel. Now, it might seem this is quite trivial to see a dead pixel and why I should be mentioning this in terms of a review, but the reason I mention it is because I wouldn't have expected a dead pixel on a professional grade monitor. Sure, if there's a £100–200 monitor, I would have accepted it. Given the fact this is a review unit and I've got this for review as a professional basis, I'm very much surprised to see a dead pixel there. It's something I'm pointing out, not something I'm going to be criticizing the monitor for, but it does question the build quality and the quality control of BenQ, given the fact that this monitor, as I said, is designed for designers in mind and not just your average Joe on the street. Nevertheless, it is a decent monitor, but it's not something I would really recommend at £800. At £800, I feel that you can get better, a better monitor with a better color uniformity. You can even go for a near 5K monitor, which also a Philips 5K monitor that sits around £800–900. That has much better color reproduction and much better brightness uniformity. Sorry, and it's calibrated for Adobe RGB and sRGB and gives you the extra 5K resolution, not the 4K resolution. So I can't see myself recommending this monitor, unfortunately. It is a good monitor, but given its competitors out there, I think the competitors just do better for the price and for the specs and the performance. If this monitor was say £600 odd, I would say myself, yes, I could recommend it if you're a semi-pro, shall I say, professional photographer, or one that is on a slight budget versus one that wants to spend say £1,500 on a professional ISO graded monitor. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. Make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe. Always favourite and share, and let me know in the comments below what you think of this unpaid, totally unbiased and independent review. As always, something that I really pride myself on. Alright guys, I'm Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye bye.